Time loses meaning. Blackness, simultaneously eternal and non-existent. Nightmares ebb and flow, building and fading. Scenes from my earliest childhood to my landing on Adastra, all wrapped by horrific violent imagery that never happened. But as soon as each one ends, I forget, just like any other dream, except one. I'm huddled in the seat of the ship, freezing cold, numb with desperation and fear of impending death. How is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? I glance back at the crumbed form of the wolf in the back of the ship. His head is framed by a pool of blood, the metal pipe just a few feet away where I dropped it. I've made a huge mistake. The anger and terror I've been feeling over the past several hours, days, weeks, builds until I scream and smash both of my fists on the glowing panel in front of me. The next thing I know, light blasts the interior of the ship and I cover my face with my hands. Still, the light pierces through and I see blood red. The ship vibrates violently and I know right away that we are being pulled into it, uselessly pounding at the unresponsive panel. The brightness and heats become unbearable and I finally throw myself to the floor, crawling away, crawling towards my wolf. Amicus, help! But the light continues to grow, and soon everything is lit up with a blinding white, and the heat is so intense that the metal melts underneath my hands and knees. I'm on fire. I am fire. I feel lines of molten lead course through from the base of my neck, down my spine, branching out into my limbs, even my toes and fingers. I can only float in the inferno, dumbly wondering why I still feel like I am dead, wondering if this is death, as the ship, the wolf, and I become part of the star. Once again, time is lost, and I only exist as fire. I stare up at the sky, the air suddenly cool as I try to comprehend the sudden change from the harsh, all-consuming starlight to the gentle, cold moonlight. Still, fire continues to lance through my head, neck, spine, and limbs in agonizing lines, my body mapped as a tortured stick figure. It hurts. Hurts more than anything I've ever experienced. But it's fading after what happened to the star, so I try to relax in the sand. After a few minutes, I realize that I can hear the waves, and I feel something drawing me towards the water. I'm a little scared of getting up, of any movement at all, terrified that it might trigger the pain anew. But it doesn't. It almost feels like I'm not moving at all. I glide towards the water, watching the surface reflect the bright planet and moon in the hypnotic ripples. Entering the lake and feeling the cold, gentle water wash over my skin is the best feeling I've ever felt. It envelops me slowly, moving up my legs, torso, and finally my head, and just like that, the pain and fire is chased away, subdued to a dull, tingly throb. I gasp in relief, somehow able to breathe under the water. I drift through the dark water, watching the globes of light dance and sway above me before I finally resurface. It's only then that I remember Amicus. Fear grips me. Was he still on that ship? Did I leave him behind in the star? I look up and see the lights glittering from the palace as I begin to swim towards it, somehow moving much faster than I should be able to. Instead of swimming to the beach though, I end up moving towards the balcony, straight to Amicus' room. As I get closer, I realize that someone is on the balcony. It's Amicus, and my heart fills with relief. He got his back to the railing, leaning against it casually. Even though I can only see him from behind, I realize that it's not the Amicus I know. Instead, he's in full robes, and he's a lot more skinny than I remember. I slow down, wondering why he's not looking at me with all the splashing noises I'm making. Just as I'm about to call out to him though, I see a brown arm wrap around him, smoothing over his arms and back, and that's when Amicus turns to his side. I see now that those arms belong to another wolf, smaller and brown-furred, one that I've never seen before. Amicus is doing the same to him, paws moving around his body in a way that is awkward and hesitant. A pair of young lovers making out for the first time. I watch, suddenly feeling embarrassed. I'm back in Amika's room, and that same teenage wolf is now on the sofa, bent over, hiding his face behind his paws. I've never really seen Amicus cry, but I can tell that's what he's doing now. I feel the sense of complete utter shame, the feeling that you let everyone down. It consumes me. I reach out towards the young wolf, wanting to comfort him, wondering if he'll ever know who I am. Suddenly, I'm sucked back into the cosmos. There's no parent this time. Instead, I float peacefully through the vacuum, staring down at what I assume to be Adastra. Even though there isn't anyone here with me, I sense beings all around me. I also get the sense of approval, like the work is done.
Finish Mira's work, young human.
And just like that, I start to drift back towards the moon, descending faster and faster until everything becomes a blur. This time, Comic 2 feels real, and I immediately know that I'm not in a dream. I smell lavender. Amicus? My eyes feel like they are glued shut, and I have to rub them to get them fully open. The first thing I see in the sky is the planet Anchoris and the moon Torque, both of them glowing brightly. I stare at the two floating orbs for a while, waiting for things to fall into place as to why I'm out here. I'm laying on something hard, like concrete, and I feel a soft but weighty thing on my chest. My hands are curled around it, and I lift it slowly to have a look, even though it feels like a 50-pound dumbbell. Flowers. Flowers with a fair bit of lavender mixed in. Slowly, I turn my head, and again, I get the feeling of heavy weights attached to my body. I somehow manage it, and I immediately see that I'm in the amphitheater. At the same time, I see more flowers, and I realize that they're all arranged around me in a circle. Moving my head around also makes me realize that there's something scratchy and prickly on my head. Still struggling with my heavy hand, I reach up and grab it. My eyes taking a few moments to focus to find out that it's a wreath, pink flowers woven into the twigs. I finally drop my arm to the side, getting too tired to hold it up, and I watch it lazily roll a few feet away. The movement fades a wave of tingling through my body, but it fades quickly. The heavy weakness is also starting to fade, but I'm more worried about how I got here and why I'm covered in flowers. From what I can tell, I'm in the gardens, though a part of it I haven't been to before. I close my eyes, trying to remember how I got here. Amicus, the trial of rhetorics, the restaurant, being sick. Again, I lift my arm, though it's easier this time, and I look at the skin. It's covered in crusty yellowish scabs, though they don't hurt. I don't know why, but I get the feeling that the skin underneath it is completely healed. I try to think again. I do remember throwing up on Cassius, but after that, just terrible dreams. Did they heal me somehow? Is this flower thing part of that? I'm feeling some of my strength returning, so I force myself into a sitting position, joints popping and muscles stiff. Still, with every movement, things gets easier. I do get lightheaded though, and I have to sit there for a moment, looking around again, wondering where Amicus is. He sounded so desperate and sad last time I heard him. I needed to show him that I'm okay now. At least I think I am. I slowly push myself up, listening to the gunshot cracks of my knees, as if I hadn't used them for days. I stand unsteady, in the center of the square, looking around at the circle of flowers. I'm startled when I turn around and see a wolf behind me. But it's just a sculpture. A male wolf decked in the armor, both of his paws raised to the sky. He got a bunch of flowers waved around his wrists, and on his head too. I wait for a few moments, listening for anyone that might be nearby. But all I hear are the insects around me. So I start to move towards the path that I know leads to the palace. Although I'm pretty sure that I'm not dreaming now, this eerie scenario has me questioning that. The whole situation is so real. All of the things I remember happening last feel so distant. Despite spending all of my time at Adastra trying to be covert, I find myself longing to find someone. Anyone really. I just need to know what happened. And pretty soon, I do find someone. Ooh, quite an intro to the video, huh? Jeez. Hey guys, it's your Bo the Doggo, and welcome to Adastra episode 14. I'm sure you know what happened last time. Last episode ended very dramatically. We don't need to recap anything. And who is this we found? Is it Amicus? We'll find out right now. So let's go. His back is to me, stooped over, fur almost ghostly in the glow of the garden lights. The cat busies himself with some flowers, a pair of metal clippers in his paws. It's Alex! Yay! As I get closer, I can hear him humming just above the noise of his busy snipping. I'm just opening my mouth when I see his ears perk. Cass, you know I don't like these games. Alex turns to face me, a knowing smile on his lips. That quickly disappears the second that he sees me though, replaced by a look of complete shock. Ah! Whatever he was trying to say doesn't seem to want to come out, and instead he just stands there, gaping at me. Hey! I can barely talk, my voice rasping out like sandpaper on wood. I take a step forward and that's when Alex finally reacts, jumping almost a foot into the air in a backward motion, putting space between us as he yelps. What? What? How? He stutters and stumbles over his words. I've seen Alex flustered before, but never like this. There's real fear in his eyes as he stumbles against some bushes. I wonder if he's just going to take off running, but instead he stands there, quivering as he holds up the clippers in front of his chest, as if contemplating to use them as a weapon. I raise my hands reassuringly. Hey, Alex, it's me. I cough a few times, trying to clear my throat. I see Alex's ears twitch at the sound as he slowly lowers the clippers, though he moves to the side away from the bushes, giving himself a clear path to the palace. Bo? But how? He's staring at me like what he's seeing is impossible. How what? I'm regaining my voice slowly, but surely. What's happening? Alex finally seems to get a hold of himself, fur slowly laying flat again as he eyes me, looking almost suspicious. I could ask you the same thing. This catches me off guard. Why? Well... Alex looked around before focusing on me again, tilting his head as if to look at me from a different angle. You were dead. Dead? Well, not completely, but you were in a coma that we were told that you wouldn't wake up from. Oh. I looked down at myself, as if to confirm that I am indeed alive and well. Aside from the patchy scabs all over my arms and legs, I feel okay. Aside from the grogginess, I thought the doctor healed me. Alex's ears perk. Doctor? I mean, I think he was a doctor. I heard him when I was brought back in here. Alex's eyes narrow. Amicus told us that you were vegetative before he arrived. How did you hear him? I don't know. I might have dreamed it. I was really out of it. If you were still conscious when he arrived, you should have been able to hold the damage caused by the virus. Who was the doctor? With every passing second, I regain more and more of my wits, and Alex's demeanor is confusing me. He thought that I was dead, and instead of being happy, I feel like he's interrogating me. I mean, it's almost like if it was Alex who was the one who poisoned me, but he wouldn't do that, right? 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 That's also when I realized something else. Wait, you all think that I'm dead? Well, not me anymore, obviously. This is all very strange. How did you survive exactly? Now the cat is starting to annoy me, and I look past him towards the palace, the situation finally dawning on me. Where's Amicus? The cat is quiet for a moment, as if contemplating something, then quirking his head. I'm not sure. He's been here or there, though I haven't seen him for at least a day. I walk past the cat, towards the palace, realizing what sort of state the wolf might be in. Where are you going? I'm very happy to see that you're well. This is all just very sudden and unexpected. I ignore Alex, not really in the mood to figure out why he's acting the way he is. He's making me feel like I'm still dreaming. So I walk quickly, and I'm relieved that he doesn't follow me. The wave of cool air that hits me as I enter the palace is a welcome feeling, and I find myself grateful to be back. Despite having apparently been here the whole time, it does really feel like I've been away for weeks. I pick up the pace and head towards Amicus' room, practically jogging. I have to let him know that I'm okay. The short distance to his room seems like it takes longer than it ever has before, and I'm glad that I don't have to run into anyone else on the way. That interaction with Alex was weird, and I don't need to repeat that right now. I finally make it to his door, and I immediately hear muffled chattering behind it. I don't hesitate though, and I press my hand to the panel. The door slides open, and instead of the usual blast of even cooler air I usually get from Amiko's room, it's stuffy, warm, and smells a little bit musky. The lights are dimmed, and my head sinks when I see the empty bed. I linger in the doorway though, something feeling off. The droning chatter is calm, giving what sounds like a monologue on the history of some past emperor. I see wine bottles too, mostly bunched together on top of the bedside table, but there are also a few laying here and there on the floor. Amicus! I call out, starting to become afraid of what I might find. I take a tentative step into the room, and I hear a loud snore, and instantly, the worry gripping my chest starts to release. I'd recognize that sound anywhere. I hurry over to the other side of the bed, where I find my wolf splayed out over the floor, a wine bottle next to his head, only in his underwear. He's clearly asleep, or passed out, muzzle hanging widely open as another thunderous snore shakes the floor. Amicus! I crouch down next to him, resting a hand on his chest, trying to shake him awake. His only response is a few more broken snores before drooling out the side of his muzzle. I switch to patting at his face, then grabbing his muzzle and shaking it around, noticing how crusty his fur is, something I never felt on Amicus before, and from that day on he was known as Amicrust. Amicus! I consider slapping him like I see people do in the movies, and then I see the bottle next to his head and decide to go for another approach. I snatch it up and hurry to the bathroom. I hold the bottle under the faucet for a good 5 seconds, letting it fill up with soapy water until the halfway point before hurrying back into the room. Meanwhile, Com doesn't seem to notice me, droning on about how this particular emperor was having a fondness for orchnids. I crouch down next to Amicus again, hesitating for a second as I wonder if I maybe should call Kato. Probably not Kato. Nefera maybe, just in case Amicus is actually in trouble. I don't know how much a wolf can drink before they can kill them, but the sheer amount of bottles laying around the room worries me. I decide just to go ahead with my plan, and I upend the bottle over Amicus' face. It pours directly onto his nose, and he immediately chokes, turning his head this way and that to avoid the stream of bubbly water. I have a moment to wonder if drowning him is the best approach before he suddenly sits up, pawing at his face. Gah! The wolf covers his eyes, and it's only then that I realize how irritating the soap must be for them. Shit, sorry! Should I get some water from the shower so you can rinse your eyes out? Amicus freezes, still covering his face, then slowly lowers his paws to reveal his bleary, bloodshot eyes. He stares at me in a way that he never has before. He's kind of surprised like Alex had been, but rather than fear, Amicus simply looks empty, numb. Are you okay? I reach out, but Amicus turns his head away. Away with you, ghost. Enough of your torment. He keeps his head turned away, eyes closed. Ghost? Amicus, it's me! I reach out and grab his face, and that seems to shock him as he jumps and turns to look me right in the eye. I can tell that he's drunk, very drunk, but there's an extra distant look in his eyes that I don't like. Amicus, what are you on? Did you take something? I hold his big head steady, feeling the fullness of his cheeks in my hands, looking into his familiar eyes, no matter how glazed and unfocused they are. Then I found myself throwing my arms around his neck, leaning into his body, the reality of the situation crashing down on me all at once. Amicus gasps into my ear, as if my touch suddenly makes him realize that I'm real, that I'm here. Clumsily, he starts to stand up, pulling me up with him. It's difficult because I don't let go, almost getting lifted off my feet before I settle on letting go just for a moment to hug him lower around his body, pressing my head against his chest, hearing his heart hammering inside. Finally, he's able to get a grip on me and push me away despite my intention to cling to him forever. He holds me at an arm's length, staring at me. I clutch his paws on my shoulder, staring at him, feeling my eyes start to water. Is this possible? No, please, I can't handle another hallucination. His expression keeps morphing from hope and awe to devastation. I feel his paws gripped my shoulders tightly, almost painfully, as if to make sure that I'm real. It's me! I woke up in the gardens for some reason. I'm okay! I want to hug him again, but he keeps holding me away, looking me up and down, pushing my hair back and feeling my crusty skin. But how? I don't know. I just remember having crazy dreams, and then I was in the gardens. As I'm talking, I think Amicus is finally believing it's me, and I notice that his big body is starting to sway in a worrying manner. Amicus? I reach out to steady him, but as I do, his eyes roll back and I realize that there's no way in hell that I'm going to be able to keep a wolf over twice my weight from toppling over. I try anyway, wrapping my arms around him as Amicus falls backwards, his bulk pulling me down with him before he falls back first into the bedside table, sending bottles flying while his upper back and head smashes into the wall. My fall is absorbed by his much softer front, but the sound is loud, the room shaking and probably waking up the entire palace. Waking up the wolf the second time is a lot easier, probably because he fainted rather than passing out from too much wine. We're at least able to move onto the bed where Amicus sits cross-legged, pulling me onto his lap and just holding me there, his paws moving around my body, still trying to make sure I'm real. For a moment, we don't talk, the wolf just pressing his nose to my hair and breathing in deeply. I feel a little self-conscious, knowing that I mustn't smell very good right now, but that doesn't seem to bother Amicus, as he goes on pressing his nose to my head and neck, taking in my scent. Finally, he does speak, but it's one word. How? I turn my head towards the wolf, resting my cheek against his neck. I don't know. I don't really know what happened to me. You got sick. So sick. You were having convulsions, brain and nerve damage. It was terrible. Amicus' arms tighten around me, his voice, normally deep and strong, now sounding weak and broken. This statement worries me though, and I have to wonder if I really am better. There seems to be patches missing from my memory, and I don't feel different, but I'm not fully myself. But I don't really want to think about it right now. I think I remember a little bit of that. I lift my arm up, showing Amicus the shiny, crusty scabs on my arm. It was Aviapox. I can't believe I didn't consider the possibility of disease and illness for you. I'm just so used to the idea that any new arrival on Adastra are going through that process. Obviously, we did it a bit differently. Yeah, and honestly, I don't know if you'd react differently to those vaccinations. Each species has their own customized cocktail. And Aviapox isn't included in the vaccination set. It's such a mild virus. We've never seen anyone react the way you did, even other primates. I think back to how quickly I became sick. How quickly I almost died. I notice Amicus looking down at me again, and I look back up at him. What? Amicus shakes his head. I'm just trying to make sure that you're here. That you're real. I'm afraid that if I let go, if I even look away, you will disappear. His arms tighten around me again, squeezing a huff of breath out of me. I'm here, I promise. Well, I've had too many hallucinations. Too many stress tablets, I think. Stress tablets? Yes, quite a few of them in fact. With wine? Oh, yes. Amicus! I don't really know what these stress tablets are, but I imagine mixing space Xanax with alcohol is a horrible idea. Amicus doesn't seem bothered by my reprimand though, instead just snuggling closer to me, his crusted face fur prickly against my skin. I love you, Bo. I get that familiar swooping feeling in my chest, like I'm on a roller coaster. I clutch into his arms. I love you too. This is the first time they told each other that they love each other, right? Oh, cute! Amicus sighs and sets his chin on my head. I thought I'd missed the opportunity to say it. I still can't believe you're real. Well, I'm here, I promise. But I still don't understand how. This shouldn't be possible. You were declared to be in a permanent coma. No brain activity. I had to set you out in the gardens and only hope for a miracle. A miracle? Amicus lets out a shaky sigh, running his finger through my hair. When the sapient falls into such a state, we simply let them fade away in a peaceful setting, or possibly recover if the parents allows it. I sat out there for a while, but I couldn't bear to see you waste away. So I came back to my room to drink and prepare for the emperorship. I imagine Amicus laying the flowers around me and I feel my heart break a little. Did the parents come to you? Is that why you're here? I had hoped that they would. I shrug. I really can't remember much. It doesn't matter. My prayers were answered. Praise the gods. Amicus starts to smother me again with his hugging. Little bits of imagery from my dream is starting to come back to me. Something that happened in space. Someone talking to me. And judging by the only human I know, your people are full of surprises. But we can figure that out later. I just want to hold you right now. Okay. And Bo? Yeah? Please try to avoid mentioning that I lost consciousness when I saw you. Of course. So we sit there for a while longer, while Amicus just sort of cuddles with me. After about an hour, we finally decide to move on to the shower, considering the state we're both in. I think this is a good place for me to take a break, and I will continue to record the last part tomorrow. So pause the video, take a break, get your snacks and something more to drink, and for everyone else, let's continue. We shower together, taking turns scrubbing each other. The hot water brings back life into my limbs, and those worrying tingles have faded to the point where I'm barely noticing them now. Amicus gently rubs my crusted skin, and we're both surprised to see it come away, exposing new, unblemished skin underneath. Incredible! I never knew humans heal at such a rate. Yeah, I don't know if that's really the case. My mind continues to wander back to those vague, hard-to-remember dreams that I was having. Meanwhile, Amicus leans back against the wall as I rub soap into his front, smiling gently as I lather up his chest. I can tell that he's still fairly drunk, but that doesn't stop his cock from becoming fully erect between us, which I just pretend not to notice. His eyes widen as if he suddenly realizes something. Wait, did anyone else notice you? I pause, both of my hands cupping his sizable pecs. Yeah, actually, Alex was in the garden and I talked to him. Just Alex? Well, now obviously Cassius knows. And probably Nefero. And Virginia. Also Kato. Yeah. Amicus seems to relax a bit. What did you say? Just seemed really surprised. Unsurprising. But he was acting a little weird. Amicus shrugs. He keeps things for himself for the most part. I'd be worried you run into Kato or Cassius especially. I need to think of a way to explain this to them. This simian guys is becoming harder to keep up. I'm about to mention more about Alex's demeanor, but that's when Amicus just starts hugging me again. His dick, hot and firm, crushing between us as he does. I don't care though, and Amicus doesn't seem to either. I don't understand any of this right now, but as long as it's real, I don't care. It feels so good like this. His wet fur slicked down tightly to his thick body, which presses against me perfectly. Amicus finally shuts off the water, and we're blasted with hot air. I'm dried in less than a minute, and I stumble out to try to fix my poofy hair in the mirror, while Amicus stands in the shower stall for a little while longer. After another few minutes, I watch him step out and come up behind me to nuzzle my ear, embracing me once again. He really can't keep his paws off me, but I completely understand why. He starts nudging me out into the bedroom, before turning me to face him, lowering his face to mine, and I finally realize where this is going. It feels so sudden, especially after everything that happened. I think we could use more time to adjust. But I kiss back anyway. I mean, the boy is drunk, and the drunk boy wants what the drunk boy wants. We've kissed a few times before, but only with our lips. Now, his tongue presses against my mouth, and I only hesitate for a moment before letting it in. His thinner, longer tongue caresses mine with a surprising nimble strength. I thought it would be kind of hard to make out with the way that he muscles shaped, but Amicus makes it happen, his lips clamping around my mouth as he kisses deeper. I'm amazed at how bold he's being, and I wonder if it's maybe because he's still pretty inebriated. He cradles my head gently, walking me backwards slowly, his cock poking against my groin and thighs occasionally until I come against the bed. Gently, he lowers me down to rest my back, both paws coming to press on either side of my shoulders while he looms over me, grinning before he pauses. Is this okay? I think. I mean, are you okay? We can wait until tomorrow when you're less drunk. He grins again. I've been wanting to do this for so long, to show you how much I love you. Amicus leans down, nuzzling my neck. I thought I missed that chance. I can't tell you how dark these past 3 days have been for me. I ran out of tears yesterday. Amicus looks away for a moment. I'm not going to miss that chance now. I reach up and hold his head steady again before I lean up to kiss him. This may be alcohol-fueled. It may be sudden. But after everything that happened, after what Amicus has been through, I want us to be able to do this before anything else happens. He huffs loudly through his nose. The burst of hot air is tickling my face as he falls to the bed, rolling to the side to pull me up on top of him. His massive soft body crushes me like it always does, rising and falling with his quickening breath, his kissing becoming more and more aggressive as he lets out little growls and snarls. All the reservations I had about having sex with an alien wolf falls away at that moment. Oh, so it's happening. I guess. I get it. After everything that's happening, and especially after almost dying, I just don't care anymore. We grind against each other, both of us hard now as we just explore each other's body. His giant paws sliding up and down my sides while I'll do the same to him. Eventually, I sit up, straddling his waist, looking down at him, just sort of taking him in. Again, he has that silly grin on his face, his paws on my thighs, kneading at the skin and muscles. You're beautiful. That makes me laugh. Beautiful? Well, you're adorable. Amicus raises an eyebrow. I'm not sure that's a correct description for the next Emperor of Adastra. I lean forward and aggressively rub at his belly, his weak spot, immediately neutralizing his snark as his paws flock above his head, eyes almost rolling in pleasure before he squeezes them shut. He writhes and arcs around my hands, leaning into the rub as I slide my hands up to his chest, then all the way down to his lower stomach. When that happens, I feel his dick jump against my rear, making me realize how hard I'm getting him. I'm getting the same way as I make the strong, thick body below me undulate with pleasure. His head rolls from side to side, tongue flopping back and forth, and when I giggle at him, that seems to finally bring him out of his trance. He growls and grips my arms. That is cheating. And with that, he rolls me over, easily reversing our position as he mounts me, pinning my hands above my head with one paw. With his other, he tries to rub at my stomach, which makes me laugh and squirm until he finally lets off. That doesn't work on primates. Seemed like it worked well to me. He lets go of my hand and leans down to nuzzle my face, his cold nose exploring my chin, cheek and forehead. He then starts to adjust his position before he suddenly stops, looking up at me. His ears lower, and I can tell that he's embarrassed. What? Do humans, for males, do you go through the rear? No. Okay. Oh boy. Oh. I think about that. That would be the expected route, but looking at Amicus' length... The wolf follows my gaze and looks even more embarrassed. We don't have to. I don't want to hurt you, of course. I prop myself up on my elbows, looking between the two of us. Yeah, maybe some other time. You're kind of thick. You misspelled thick, there should be 2C. Amicus smirks. Thank you. He starts adjusting himself again, squatting as he sort of waddles up so that our dicks are parallel to each other. Maybe this? He slowly lowers himself until we make contact. Whoopsie! Here we go. Better sense of this. Though I really like the shot. It's a cool shot though. I really like it. And I love the shading and the colors. Oh. The feeling and sight of it is electric. The hot flesh of his cock pressing against mine firmly. Out of sight, I feel his furry balls come to rest gently on top of mine, the soft form molding together easily. Amicus pauses there, smiling down at me gently as he rests both paws on either side of my head. You'll have to excuse my ignorance. I'm not sure how humans might copulate. He wiggles his hips, causing his legs to slide from side to side on top of mine, and I have to stifle a gasp. I think it's about the same from what I saw. Amicus frowns for a moment as he realizes what exactly I'm referring, but quickly recovers as he leans down to kiss me once again. Once he's finished, I smile back up at him. But yeah, this is fine. I rest my hands on his knees, noticing how he's balancing most of his considerable weight in his squat. Are you comfortable though? That looks like a workout. Kato works me a lot harder than this bow. Does he? Does he now? Amicus frowns again as he realizes how that could be interpreted. Exactly. I mean, he makes me do a lot of squatting exercises. I'll just consider this extra practice. I reach out and I feel the wolf's chest and belly while he speaks, again marveling at how powerful it all is. Amicus chuckles and arcs out a bit to give me a better feel, taking deep breaths and puffing out his chest. He shudders as I rub his nipples, the knobs of flesh hardening instantly. So now that you're comfortable. Tentatively, Amicus reaches down with his left paw and carefully lifts my legs off my stomach to press against his. Oh, okay, Amicus. This time, I let out a little gasp, being squeezed together like this, sending a jolt of pleasure up from my dick, through my body and into my brain. Okay. Immediately, my skin breaks out into goosebumps as I shiver to Amicus' touch, his gentle but all-enveloping paw feeling so good right now. He starts off slowly at first, beginning to jerk us both off in small, quick motions. I can tell that he's being overly careful with me, so I jerk my hips up against him, encouraging him more. He seems to get the hint, and he picks up the speed, giving the two of us deeper, faster strokes that makes me grip at the bedsheet of either side of me, staring at the ceiling as I let out soft pants and groans. Amicus gets more and more into it, already leaking all over my own dick as he pumps his paw, biceps bulging with the effort. I've been jerked off by others before, but Amicus' paw really is something else. Of course it's big, but the soft, squishy pads on his palms and fingers add to the pleasure, giving me a texture I've never felt before. The wolf starts to thrust his powerful hips into the stroking, making the bed squeak and shake. Again, his strength is evident in how he practically moves my entire body with each thrust. The idea that he's holding back is turning me on even more. I feel his heavy sack bouncing on top of mine. That's a sentence I never thought I would say. My knees jerk up with each thrust, and each time they do, I feel his large rear end slam up against them, its furry form tight and clenched. I'm getting close. I start to thrust up against him in earnest, wanting to match his climax. At this point, we're almost bouncing on the bed with how hard the wolf is humping against me, forgetting his strength in the moment. I don't mind though, not really caring how sore I'm going to be tomorrow as the pleasure overtakes me. It hits me all at once, and reach out to put a hand against his face, letting him know, and he takes that as a signal to let go as well. I feel it in his entire body, the wolf tensing up, muscle tightening, standing out through the fur of his thighs, stomach and chest. I see his face then as he balances on the edge of climax, eyes wide looking towards the ceiling, mouth hanging open, a look of pure awe. I feel it in his cock too, and at the same time, we're both pushed over the edge. Oh, look at that face! I groan, something I don't usually do, but the build-up, the situation, the feeling is all too much. It's drowned out by the sound Amicus makes though. He practically sags over me, letting out a bassy rumbling moan of ecstasy. Hearing the masculine deep voice making a sound of such pleasure spurs on another spasm from my cock. Okay, let's go! I think the same happens to Amicus, because he suddenly hunches forward again, muscle right next to my ear as he groans out again, his hot rush of breath on the side of my face making me shudder. The big wolf continues to thrust against me in time with the spurs from his cock, the look on his face now one of goofy pleasure, his long tongue drooping out, dripping onto my chest. His climax goes on for several seconds longer than mine, and I watch as he spurts over my stomach over and over until finally he collapses down against me, his fur damped with sweat. Nice. I wrap my arms around him as he heaves for breath, feeling his body expand and contract against mine. He nuzzles against my head, his stomach flattening against mine, against the mess we made. We've gotta take another shower. Even though I'm a bit out of breath, I'm kind of amused how much Amicus is gasping, sounding like he just ran a marathon. He really put everything into that. Now that's a man. You... I hold his head against mine, turning to kiss him on the cheek. Me? You are incredible. Thanks. You're really something too. Good something? A very good something. We lay there quietly for a moment. Amicus propping himself up a bit on his knees and elbows so his entire weight doesn't rest on top of me. How are your legs? Burning. Probably the most intense exercise my thighs have ever been through. But it was worth it. Again, we lay there quietly, as Amicus just sort of strokes my hair. I'm still terrified that this is a dream. I hug him more tightly to my body, almost forcing him to fall on top of me. I'm here, and I'll be here in the morning when you wake up. You better, otherwise I'll never forgive you. His speech slurs a bit when he whispers into my ear. I look at him. So exactly how drunk are you? The wolf shrugs, slowly rolling off of me, the cold air hitting the fluids on my stomach. I'm fairly sober now. Shall we wash up? He reaches out the paw and I take it, slightly surprised as he pulls me up to be carried in his arms, like I'm his new bride. We go to the showers and wash up again, even more slowly than we did the first time. When we come back to the bed, Amicus continues to dote over me, hardly even letting me go at any point. I can tell that he's legitimately worried that this isn't real, and I feel the same way. After everything that happened, this doesn't seem possible. Eventually, I lay on the bed next to him, and he spoons me tightly against his body. He's extremely warm, but with no blankets and the cold air drifting on top of us, it's perfect. Pretty soon I'm drifting off to sleep, listening to the wolf's soft snores in my ear. Thankfully, I don't dream. So that's good because then you wake up quicker? Get up! I jump at the same time I feel Amicus jolt against me. We both struggle to sit up while pulling the covers up around us. Out of the bed! The jarring appearance of Kato has me staring at him in surprise, unsure of what to do. Amicus immediately moves though, pulling me off the bed with him, standing slightly in front of me as he hands me the blanket to cover myself up. We both stare at Kato, the old wolf actually shaking with fury. Is he angry that I'm not in the garden and no one told him? Make yourself decent, Amicus! Amicus hurriedly snatches up underwear from the dresser, giving me one of my own as well. As I'm struggling to tie my on, I notice Cassius standing in the doorway, something shiny and flashing with lights in his paw, though he doesn't have the usual sour look on his face. Instead, he looks almost scared. Kato lets us stand in silence for a moment before turning his head towards the door. Felix, enter! I hear shuffling around out in the hallway, and Cassius moves to the side to allow a neatly robed wolf to enter. He looks as old as Kato, though nowhere near as big. He moves timidly, looking about with his ears down. Yes, Your Imperial Majesty. Is that the alien you traded for avian pox? Kato jerks his head at me, keeping his eyes on Felix. Felix turns to look at me, and I can tell that he's trying to think of the right thing to say. Finally, he just gulps and nods his head. Yes, I treated him 3 nights ago for avian pox. And his species has no profile? No, I could only tell that he was a primate. How is he conscious? Come, escort Felix to the dungeons. Yes, Kato. What? Why? Why the dungeons, Your Majesty? Felix looks imploringly at Kato before the probe center. Proceed to the hall or risk being shot, Felix. Please, what is happening? Even while he speaks, Felix backs away out of the room, Kato completely ignoring him. We all listen to the doctor's stumbling step out of the echoing hall, the wolf making an attempt to ask Cassius what's happening, before things fall silent again.
Cassius, come in and close the door.
This is not good. Cassius, looking even more scared now, steps inside and allows the door to close. Kato stares at the two of us. At this point, Amicus has one paw on my arm, keeping me firmly halfway behind his back. I'm still able to look around his shoulder at the furious acting Emperor. Slowly, I'm starting to realize what might be happening right now, and Kato's next words confirm it.
Amicus, did you make first contact?
Amicus is silent for a beat, but responds with a strong, confident voice.
No, of course not. What in the world are you talking about, Kato?
Kato stares, jaw clenched, then screaming at us at a volume I didn't think he was capable of.
Do not play games with me, Amicus!
To his credit, Amicus only jumps a little bit, his grip still firmly on my arm. The silence that follows rings in my ears as Kato seems to work to calm himself down. When he speaks again, his voice is barely above a whisper.
He is unprofiled. All children, abandoned or not, are profiled. He is not a simian. So what is he?
Amicus is frozen and I feel my stomach drop, like I'm going to piss myself. I see Kato working his jaw.
And is it true that he is your lover?
Lover? How would you know anything about that? Amicus doesn't answer this time, and that seems to be enough for Kato.
Fine, do not answer. We will take the correct precautions. Come!
Yes, Kato.
Terminate bow.
What? No! Amicus simultaneously throws himself in front of me, while reaching back and hugging me with both paws, backing me against the wall. Drones begin to enter the bedroom, but Kato barks another order.
Pause last directive.
Pausing last directive. My view is obscured now, but I can hear Amicus' heavy breathing and his heart hammering so hard that I can feel it through his back. Once again, Kato allows the silence to stretch out before speaking.
Tell us the truth, Amicus. You must not harm him, otherwise I will give you nothing, and I'll throw you to the dungeons when I become the Emperor.
More silence. I wince, wondering how that could possibly have been the right thing to say. Then I hear a low growling sound, one that I'm sure coming from Kato.
How dare you! You think you will become the Emperor after this? In fact...
I hear a quick movement, and the next thing I know, Amicus is wrenched from in front of me. I watch as he slides across the floor before Kato pounces on him, pinning him there.
Cassius, grab the alien! Set the nervo to lethal!
No? No, please! I'm frozen, but I manage to look over at Cassius, who seems to be just as frozen as I am, holding up the nervo in his trembling paws. Does that mean that when we in the first or second episode used the nervo on Amicus, that we had it on lethal, but only knocked him out? Good for Amicus. That it's not lethal for wolves, or maybe this, and Amicus is just a very strong boy.
Move, you idiot!
Cassius jumps and hurries over to me. I start to pull away, but he grabs me in an awkward hold, setting the nerve against my neck. Now is a good time to kick him in the balls? No! Amicus struggled double, and Kato is bucked around like he's on a mechanical bull.
Cease struggling, Amicus! He will not be harmed if you do as I say!
Amicus seems to calm down a bit, panting wetly against the floor as he looks straight at me, face full of desperation.
You prove yourself to be an incompetent fool, even more so than I originally thought. You've endangered our entire Emperor. For this, you will not become the Emperor. Roll be damned. It can only be a miracle that the monitors have not found out, and they surely would if you became the Emperor with that thing.
Kato stands and wrenches Amicus to his feet, twisting the other wolf's paws behind his back hard enough that Amicus lets out a bark of pain.
The third trial begins today. You will lose, and Cassius will become the Emperor.
What? What? No, that's not how it works, Kato. Kato begins to push Amicus to the doorway.
Do as I say, and I will let the alien live. Otherwise, we can do all of this in the most unpleasant way possible. Understand?
Kato, I kind of liked you before. God damn. How could you do this to me? Amicus is quiet until Kato shakes him by his pinned arms.
Oh, yes!
Good, now to the amphitheater. We will do this quickly. Do not make any stupid moves, otherwise I will let the drones escort you instead.
Kato presses Amicus towards the door. I see Amicus glance back at me, the look on his face of utter helplessness. They're out the door by the time Cassius realizes he's supposed to be following. He jumps before awkwardly pushing me after them. What? This is scary, I don't like this. It's already sunset when we get to the amphitheater. We must have slept for most of the day. Amicus and Kato are already standing in the center of the amphitheater as Cassius struggles to move me down the steps.
Sit him down, Cassius, and get down here!
Shakily, Cassius pats me down on one of the stone steps before suddenly undressing. That's when I notice that he tucked his nerve into his waistband. Possibly because of the frantic nature of the whole situation, Cassius seems to have forgotten it, and I watch it fall into his clothing as he drops it from his waist. He then stumbles his way down to the center. Amicus, meanwhile, stands stiffly next to Kato, his paws clenched, and I feel my heart sink as I see the look on his face. He has no idea what to do. Several camera drones had followed us to the amphitheater, their lights glowing in an ominous red. For several moments, Kato watches them arrange themselves around the small theater, the lenses flashing in the fading lights. Kato?
What, Cassius?
There was no trial scheduled for today. How will this be broadcast anywhere?
This will not be live. I'll think of a reason to tell the people later. We only need a single clip of you being victorious.
They will never believe this.
Though Amicus is putting on a brave face, I can hear his voice shaking.
Pogno is a combination of skill and luck, and it's not always the strongest that wins. We will manage.
And how?
Kato suddenly whirls on Amicus, throwing a punch so hard on his jaw that the other wolf spins almost 360 degrees before collapsing on the hard floor of the amphitheater. I'm standing up without even remembering doing so, heart hammering in my throat as I look down at Amicus. He doesn't move. No! Amicus, no! Meanwhile, Kato shakes his paw lightly, like it only stung a little. Cassius, on the other hand, is clasping both of his ears and his paws, staring down at his brother in a mix of shock and horror.
Kato, what are you doing?
Making it look more authentic is all.
Amicus stirs on the ground then, groaning and pushing himself up. I see dark spots foaming under his face, blood dripping from his nose. No! Stop it! The fucking taser thingy and fucking shove it up Kato's ass or something. A camera drone drifts down slowly, filming Amicus as he spits blood. I've been told to sit on the sidelines for far too long, and I'm not entirely convinced that I'm going to be okay after this. I'm a risk to the entire empire. Why would Kato let me live after I'm done being useful? I have to do something. So I quietly sit back down and lean over to reach into Cassius' pile of clothes, quickly find the Nervo and pulling it out. Then I stand back up again to take a step downward, and no one seems to notice.
Come on, Amicus, get up! You need to grapple with Cass.
Why didn't we just use makeup instead?
There is no time.
Kato finally bends down to grab Amicus under the arm to heave him up to his feet, the big wolf left to stumble unsteadily, blood running down his chin.
Cassius, get Amicus into an ankle lock and drop him. That should be enough.
They set up their scene, even though Amicus seems almost completely out of it. All of them are distracted, and I realize that this might be my only chance. Slowly, I take one step at a time, down towards the center of the amphitheater. Meanwhile, Cassius is struggling to pick up Amicus' leg, almost losing his own balance as he does. After that, Kato tells Amicus to fall back, which the wolf does, slowly. Cassius pins him down to the ground after that, and I don't think it looks convincing at all. But that doesn't really matter now, as I'm only a few steps from the ground floor.
Now, stand and raise your paws to victory, Cass. Look proud.
At this moment, things start to move in slow motion. Amicus is flat on his back, but is looking right at me. There's a questioning look on his eyes, then a pleading one, as if urging me to step back. I don't. Instead, I take the final step down onto the floor of the amphitheater, just behind Cassius, moving towards Kato. But the white wolf continues to celebrate his pretend victory, and he turns with raised paws to face me. I see the sudden recognition on his face. I run out of options and jam the Nervo right into his chest. Instantly, Cass is shot backward several feet to crumble next to Amicus, shivering and convulsing. Before I can even turn to Kato though, the old wolf is on me, grabbing the Nervo out of my hand and pulling me close by the front of my robes, my teeth clacking together with how fast he does it. He's looking at the Nervo rather than me though.
Damn it! Thanks to God that the idiot didn't have it set on lethal!
Kato fiddles with the device and I realize that he's about to use it on me. I struggle and kick at the massive wolf, but he's strong, even stronger than Amicus. But just as he flips the device around, the two metal prongs pointed at my face, I see a paw come over the top of Kato's head. Amicus grips into the metal grating of Kato's face mask, fingers locking into the gaps before he pulls. Kato screams, and I hear a horrible mix of crunching, tearing, and electrical hiss as I see red spurs from the old wolf's face just for a moment before he goes down. Amicus stares at me with wild eyes as he tries to keep Kato pinned.
Bo! Run! Run to Nefero! Run!
I stare at Amicus numbly for a moment in which I want to do so much more, but I can't. Then turn and start to run. I run as fast as I can, disappearing behind the trees and bushes, just as I hear Kato yelling for Com to execute me. And there, we end the episode. Holy fuck. Okay, a lot happened in this episode. Jesus Christ. Yeah, look forward to the next episode. Not sure when this episode is released. I feel like this might be a little later than it usually is, but it also seems to be a shorter episode, so maybe this is also released on the Saturday. We'll see. And I say already now that the next episode might be a little delayed, but I will do a community post if that's so, if it's not released on Saturday. But anyways, I actually really liked the naughty scene in this one. It was sweet, and it wasn't too, how do you say, it didn't go on for so long like in Amoros, where you will like have the sex scene for like 10 minutes. It wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't so graphic about it, so it's more tasteful here, which I enjoy actually. Anyways, looking forward to do the next episode. Because the story is really going places right now, so Jesus Christ. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and I love you guys. Big thank you to my patrons, and yeah, remember that you are loved and appreciated, and that you should be proud of who you are, because I want to see you in the next episode. Bye! I don't think I showed you my new poster. Huh, Adastra poster, wow.